In today's video, we are going to be replacing the transmission fluid, the coolant, the radiator, and this auxiliary, the two transmission filters on this 99 Lexus ES300. This transmission was built just over 30,000 miles ago, so we're going to be following the recommended time on that, and the coolant's about 41, maybe a couple thousand over 40,000 miles, so it'll be good. We're going to redo it all. This radiator, there's nothing really wrong with it, but it's about 5 years old, and I'm not sure what brand or anything that it is, so they're having a sale, and for about $100 I got the actual Toyota radiator. And since I'm swapping out all the fluids anyways, we'll be replacing that, and that's about my rationale for that. So step one will be to use this 10mm hex socket, get under there and drain the pan. Now the first thing that we're going to do is actually take out this dipstick. I need to go grab a paper towel to wipe it down. Now I've heard people go either way on this, but I've heated up the car and then I drove it around for a while, and I did that. I've heard people say that it helps, collect all of the, let me make sure I have this going the right way. That's counterclockwise. Okay. Here goes the red. Ooh, that fluid is hot. Hot, hot, hot. Oh man, this is annoying. Ooh, that's hot, 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 hot fluid. God damn it. Ooh. Okay. Oh boy, that is spilling everywhere. Great. Ooh. That is hot, hot, hot. Hot, hot, hot. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the pan. To do that, we need to get to these 10mm bolts, and it's a bit tight in here, so let's see if this works. A couple tips I would give is, if you're doing the pan, make sure you have the right gasket. Especially on this car, they use two different transmissions, so it's easy, and they're very similar, the A541 and the U140E. So I just lined up all of the bolts and it looks like that's gonna work. And the other thing is to make sure that you can get to all the hard to reach bolts with whatever tool you're gonna use. And I think I am. I think so. I think in here, let's see, I think with an extension. So I'm gonna keep testing that. It's kind of hard to do it with the camera in hand, but I believe I can get to all these, especially these where the subframe is right there. So I'm gonna make sure I can get a good grip on all of them, and then we will slowly loosen this up and take this off. And part of the reason is you see that there's this wetness here, and I think that's coming from the pan seal. It may be coming from elsewhere, but we're gonna do a pan seal and filter replacement, so let's see how it goes. Okay, let's get in there and see what we got. So let's test out. We can get to all the bolts. So I think this one a little tricky. Can I get to it from the other side? Move this. Okay, let's get in there and see what we got. So let's test out. We can get to all the bolts. So I think this one a little tricky. Can I get to it on the other side? Move this. Okay. Now let's see. So I can get one, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7. This little baby extension. Where's my baby extension? Okay. This little baby extension just gets us to this one, this one, this one, this one. Pop. These are just popping. Okay. Okay, the pan came off, and I'll walk you through that. I just used this tool right here and got under, you see right there, right under there, and a little push and a tug and it came off. So we see here we have the strainer, I guess they call it, and that's dripping out. So we're gonna get to the filter in a second. We're just gonna let that continue to drip out, and let's take a look at the pan. So here's the pan, and interestingly, you see where the drain plug is, and you see how that's kind of elevated, so everything below that level doesn't get drained out. Now, I guess that's okay, but let's take a look at our magnets here. So we see there's a good amount of, let me grab a, where's that paper towel? Here's the paper towel. So we see here, good amount of crud on our magnets. So we'll be cleaning all of that up and then putting the pan back on once we change out the filter. Okay, so let's clean this off a little bit. We got our little magnets. Next we got some brake cleaner here. smell. Alright, let's get these magnets off. So I'm curious to see how much fluid this is going to take to refill. Now, I don't know if this is the original, not original as in, like, is this a Toyota gasket or is this... The Toyota gasket kind of has this corkish kind of look to it. So I'm not sure. Oh, we see this is 4-pack. So this is a 4-pack gasket for whatever it's worth. All right. I mean, it's a little... I don't know if that's a paper gasket or what that is, but whatever. We're going to be getting rid of that. So let's give this a good clean down. Probably not good for your skin to do this without gloves, but you know, I don't do this often. Ooh. I may actually use some Dawn on this. Okay, so we're using some water. But we're going to use this Dawn power wash actually to try to get this clean. So let's we'll bring this out. This is supposed to be good on oil and a little less volatile. So let's get some of this and give this a nice scrub down. Look at that. It's like we're cleaning it like an oily dish. Let's see if we get these nice and clean. Alright. We'll attach these to the bottom here. We'll do these separately, probably under some running water. I want to give this a good scrub down and rinse off. But this Dawn power wash, actually, it breaks down the oil without, you know, all the it being such a volatile chemical. You know, not good on your skin and stuff. So this stuff should be working pretty good. Let's see, can I put this on my little no, that doesn't attach there. Oh, it actually, the table's magnetic, so let's... Okay, look at that. We're getting this a nice clean. Okay. Rinse this off. Or something there on the side. Wow, look at that. I'll probably do one more just to make sure we got everything. That's looking good. Okay. Okay, now let's. Ooh. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay. So this Dawn Power Wash is great for oily parts without, you know, brake cleaner. You all know how, you know, volatile, hard to breathe, you know, it gets on your skin and it starts feeling numb and weird, so rinse out this sponge. Oh, there's still a little bit of oiliness here, so let's say we really got this sponge rinsed out. And let's try this again. Oh. Find these corners there. Okay, let's really get in there. Little corners and crevices and stuff. Really give that a good scrub down. Okay, so here we have everything fully disassembled. It was pretty easy to get those bolts off and get the filter. There we have our old filter. It's not that old, but we are replacing it anyway at the prescribed interval. And now let's take a look at the service manual, and the important things I want to see are here where the magnets. So we see here where the manual says that you should put the magnets, and they're pretty specific. You know, it shows them even with a little bit of an angle. So we're gonna get that the right way, but before that, we're gonna put our new filter. Well, I guess technically it's a strainer, so if you want to see, here are the part numbers. So for this strainer, for this particular car, even in the service manual it shows like a different shape, but luckily the one that comes out of the car is that one. And we see here, this is the O-ring, very important, because as far as I can tell, it doesn't bring an O-ring. Yeah, I don't see any O-ring on here. So definitely want to get the O-ring if you're doing this. The other thing to take note of here is the 8 foot-pounds. I have a little torque wrench. I may just go good and tight, as they say, but we'll see. So here we go. Let's take this stuff out. Okay. Carefully. Ooh. This comes undone there. I like this little cover that they used. Let's get our O-ring. And what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna pour a little in the bottle here. See, this is that type 4. And let's get it nice and submerged. Okay. Pour this back in. Okay. Some of that. Okay, so we see this is all looking good there. Get this in place. Goes like. Okay, so I think we have the magnets on the right way here. Here we have how I have them on the pan. Here we have there, and we can see, I mean, there's this slant here, so I don't want to put it over the slant because then it's going to be kind of sticking up a little and it doesn't show that there. But other than that, I think we are looking good. So this pan is ready to go. Okay, we're about to put the pan on. Let's see how this fits. Now this is something. Toyota, they put these staples through the freaking gasket. Good thing I looked at that. That's not cool, Toyota. Want to make sure I keep track of those so they don't go in the pan. So those are there. Okay. Nothing's in our pan. Alright. Looks like it fits pretty well. You see, it's like, yeah. Okay. And I'll be stapling the gasket. Here's where we are right now. So we've taken off all of the transmission line hoses and drained those out. And if you know anything about this car, because you've seen it on a previous video, this car has a inline transmission filter, which I installed when I did the cooler. So I have a new one of these. This one I think only has like 20,000 miles or so, but since I'm switching everything out, and the whole idea of putting the cooler and the filter was because this transmission would overheat. So just by the nature of what it is, this transmission's known to have issues. So I have a new Magnefine filter, and to do it I run it inline right here. So between this line and then the flow of the fluids is that it comes out this line, it goes there, it goes through the cooler, it comes back, it goes into the radiator, through the radiator, comes back into the transmission. So to do that, so now the quirk of it is that I had ordered this hose, you see this part number here, to replace this hose. This is, for all that I know, is the original hose, but the one, this part number isn't the right length. So we see here, here's the new hose, and it's about, you know, 3-4 inches short. So I'm going to use this to be the hose on the filter. And I also like that this kind of hose has like this texture on it. It's kind of, if my camera would go in focus, there we go. Oh no, of course. Come on, come on, come on, camera. You can't do macro focus. You're not doing any focus here. There again. So you can kind of see it. There you go with the light. And I kind of like that texture, especially for taking stuff off. And the other thing is that when I went to take off the old hose, I had to essentially ruin it because it was just so stuck on there. So whereas this hose seems to have kind of a better, where, you know, it's snug, but it doesn't glue itself on there or whatever happened. So in the future, hopefully I'll be able to find the right part number for this one, but it is not this. And this is the, you know, long hose that goes from, you know, the radiator there to the you know, back into the transmission there. So it needs to be a pretty long hose, but the one I got didn't work. The other thing I'm replacing is that originally they all use these clamps that have these separated ears. And I mean, I'm sure if you have the right tool, this is easy, but if you're using, you know, like pliers like this, they are a pain in the ass because, you know, it slips off the little ears. So when you actually order the clamps nowadays, it comes like this. And this is a much better style because it's a lot less chance that it slips off because they've connected the ears with a bridge. So I'm replacing these. I replaced most of them, but I miscounted before and I didn't get these. So I got the 3 new of those clamps, and I'll be swapping those out. So I'm gonna cut this hose to the right size for that to fit, and then we will install that and keep going. Okay, here we have the pieces of tube here, and we'll put them together. So there we go. Here we have this Magnefine filter. Here it is, brand new. Another thing I want to say is that getting it to fit in there is a pretty tight fit. You know, you essentially have to put the top on and slide the bottom over a little bit and kind of really push up on it until it finally walks its way down the hose. But it does get in there, and the good thing about it is that, you know, most of the times when you're putting one of these aftermarket inline filters, you have to rig it somewhere so that it's not, you know, clanging around with some kind of zip tie or whatever it is. But this is solid. This isn't going anywhere. So that's one of the benefits. Once you do get it on, again, you're only doing this every 30,000 miles or so. And, you know, to maybe make it easier, just get an extension of hose just so that it's a fresh hose and not, you know, something hard and brittle. But there, you see it's on there, and it's all the way down at the bottom. It's good to go. So let's get the clamps on there. Here are the new clips. These I actually got from Amayama, and you can see these actually come in black for whatever reason. But interestingly, these are the ones for the transmission, and this is one I got for a power steering hose. Now famously, power steering usually runs with some kind of transmission fluid, but it's a lot thicker. it's almost double the thickness there as the transmission. So either way, slight difference there. Now I believe this whole setup is here, and now the next step will be to drain the coolant, but I need to deal with my current drain pan so that I can do that. And the coolant is draining. 1 out of 3. We got to do the radiator and then the 2 ports for the engine block. We took off the radiator cap so that it can breathe, and she is getting drained. It's the next day, and here's where we left off last night. I was cleaning this area down here where I'm going to be putting new bushings. It seems like at some point, I guess I either hit something because this got bent, and we can see even the condenser got bent, but apparently it's been like that and it's not leaking. So yeah, that could have been a curb or who knows. That's why it's good to have that shield on it. So we got to replace this hose, then I guess put the radiator in and connect everything up and put it back together. It shouldn't take too long. There's some rain in the forecast for later today, so we're gonna try to get this done hopefully before the rain starts, and hopefully everything works. Here we have the old and the new hose. Let me see here, it lines up. I like that they put these little lines on there. Now this is obviously to signify, you know, at top. I'm not sure what these dots mean. I know there used to be a bunch of these little holders for various cables and such. One of them is this one, so we're gonna put that on, and I think it's telling you right there, and you can see it kind of faded on there. I'm seeing this right. I wanted to see if that hose was original, but it's kind of hard to tell. I'm not sure whether it is or isn't. It could be. Oh, okay, I'm seeing that writing there. Now again, there's nothing really wrong with this hose, just I believe it's original. So since we're doing all this, it was only a few bucks for the hose, so we'll be replacing that. I believe we're at the point now to put in fluids. So we're gonna do a last check here. So other than the bottom, that bottom cover, we have the fans on. Okay. So here we have the fans. We have all these hoses connected. So we have the inlet hose. We have the outlet hose. We have, what else do we have? The transmission line. The filter has a clamp top and bottom. The return line has a clamp top and bottom. And unfortunately, a little note, those clamps I ordered, they still have the little bunny ears. So it seems, and these are the ones I ordered from Amayama, so from Japan. So from Japan, they like using those little bunny ears. Like I said, I'm sure there's a tool that, you know, works with that. But we see here, these are, I believe, the same exact part number from a Toyota dealership, and it has not the bunny ears, but the, you know, the bunny ears are connected. So there you see right next to each other the Japanese version of that part number, this version. I put the, these are, we have the new bushings. Let me just, I'll double check that this is tightened down, and then we're gonna do fluids. I believe we'll do transmission fluid first, and then we'll do coolant. It's a couple days later, and everything got done, and I've since driven it probably about 100 miles or so, maybe about 80 or so miles on the highway, and the rest doing city driving, maybe a little bit more than that. Everything shifts fine. So everything got put back together. It doesn't seem like we have any major leaks. Here we could see the coolant is at the top level, but the reservoir is a bit low, so I'm going to add a bit to the reservoir. So essentially, to fill it up, it took just over a gallon of coolant and then a matching gallon of water. Everything that was included in this repair, if you'd like, I can put part numbers. Like I said, I replaced the hose. I'd gotten the hose down there, which I thought I was getting this hose, but it wasn't the right one, so I replaced these two little segments of hose, and I still have some pieces of hose left. I did the pan gasket, cleaned the magnets inside the transmission, as well as swapped out the strainer. I definitely would recommend every time you do a drain and fill in the transmission to clean those magnets. So in 30,000 miles, I'm going to replace the Magnefine filter and also the pan gasket and clean the magnets inside the pan. I likely won't change the strainer again, especially since I have this auxiliary filter, but that's my thinking on that. So let's top up the reservoir. But the coolant, now the thing with the coolant, while bleeding it, you know, you get it, you fill it up, and then when you turn it on, it, you know, expands, and it started leaking, you know, not leaking but overflowing and then dripping down the engine. So it looked like it was leaking, but it looks like the level there is pretty good. So let's get the reservoir, you know, out about in between those two lines. So I have left over about almost 2 gallons of 50/50 coolant. You know, to have containers to take the old coolant, I needed to just mix the rest of it. I actually needed to get a little more distilled water, so I travel around with me. This is a full jug of 50/50. Okay, so here we have the coolant, and it made a whole mess since the jug was nearly full, but there we have everything topped off, and the engine's completely cold. That's why I can touch this just fine. So I'm about to go run to the grocery store and back, which should be a good drive, and then I will check the transmission fluid level with the car running and it hot to see if we're in that level. We see here, power steering fluid level is good, coolant level good, and we'll check the transmission fluid level. Okay, so we are about to check the fluid level. Just went for a good drive. I just ran it through all the gears, so everything's nice and hot. I went on the highway. It's, you know, I've been running a couple errands for about an hour, so it's definitely all the way up at operating temperature. If I can get this thing back in with one hand. Okay, and let's see. And it looks like we're a little bit below the hot, so I should get a little more fluid in there. Let's test it one more time. Yeah, we see it's about halfway between the cold and hot, and that, like I said, is after a pretty good drive. So I'd rather it be that, a little low, than overfilled, but we'll get some extra fluid and get it in there. To wrap up this video, we see here, I just drove the car. It's been driving for like an hour and a half, and it's completely warmed up. So let's go check the fluid level. And here is the fluid level. You see it's right in that hot zone. And that's where the line is. We see there. And there. So I'm not adding another drop. And that concludes this video. Thanks for watching.